Hello, everybody. Suzanne Kellner-Zinck with Donning Vision Hypnosis here to talk to you about a very fascinating, if not sometimes distressing and frustrating situation, most especially for parents who cannot tell if their child is dealing with emotional distress or is really truly physically ill. I'm working with one such client now who's 15 years old, and she will not go to school. And there's many reasons why she will not go to school that I found since doing her detailed personal history yesterday. But alas, there could also be other problems that could be causing the pain. So the deal here is that we never want to just decide that something's emotional. We need to rule out the physical problems that could be causing the pains, because pain is a signal. It's a signal that something needs to be figured out and healed. That's what it's there for. Just like our negative emotions, anger, sadness, fear, guilt, shame, etc., they're all there to serve a purpose, for us to really understand that there's deeper meaning to why we're feeling the way that we're feeling, and that we need to address them in some, shall we say, constructive manner in order for them to go away. At which Todd James's timeline therapy is perfect, because it was created to let go of negative emotions and limiting beliefs. That be as it may, what do you do? Well, with my particular client, it's pretty obvious that school is a real issue for her. In her earlier years, when she was living in a different country than the United States, when she was younger, she got bullied a lot. And there were other things that happened with a friend who was a really good friend of her and another friend of theirs. There were three of them that were really close friends. And she got a boyfriend, and then she started ignoring them, which is normal behavior for teenagers, but that doesn't mean that a friend at that age group would particularly like the fact that they feel abandoned by their friend, even if they have the other one still there by her side. So school has been an issue. Another issue is that her mom and dad have been doing their best that they could to get her the help that she needs. And she's been seeing a psychologist who does some hypnotism, which is how they figured out some of these problems. But she's not really proficient at it as I am, because it's not her main thing. It's something she does as an adjunctive type of therapy to help people that could use a different technique to get to the meat of the problem, if you will, going to the subconscious mind. And I applaud her for knowing how to do what she knows how to do. And she's, I think, suggested that they find a hypnotist. And it just so happened that on Alignable, I met up with a mom. And she was fascinated that I do hypnotism, because this is a conversation she had had not that long ago with her teenager's psychologist, that maybe some deeper hypnosis would be able to help them finally truly help her, because not much else has been helping her. A little bit, but not really to the degree where she's going to school and having a normal teenage life. So she had also gotten the idea from, I don't know if it was the psychologist or whom, one of the professionals, had suggested that she go see an integrative doctor. And the integrative doctor, after hearing the history, said, I am not touching this case until she has all of the labs done. Because integrative doctors are looking for root cause. They're looking for things like heavy metals problems and lack of metabolizing nutrients that are needed, most especially amino acids from the protein we eat, to develop the neurotransmitters for clarity of thinking and emotional regulation, among other things. And they look out for toxins like mold, toxin, and heavy metals, and all the rest of the stuff. So there's a whole bunch of tests that he's going to have her undergo. And then from there, they can rule out any kind of physical ailments or rule in those that might apply. And that is what I suggest you do. Unfortunately, medical doctors do not learn how to do this testing. They don't know how to read the test, because they're not taught how to do that in medical school. What they're taught to do is to learn the anatomy and the physiology of the body, They learn a little bit about psychiatry and around, and they're learning in their residencies. And they learn nothing about nutrition. RFK is going to change that because he knows how important nutrition is based on how sick people are because of the crap that people eat, especially in America, where you can't really get real food, even if it's supposedly real food, because I'm going to tell you right here, right now, having waxed fruit, even though it looks very beautiful, that's not the way it comes naturally when you grow it yourself. And anyone who has a garden or fruit trees knows that to be a fact of life. That being said, we need to take our child's complaints for what they are and get them checked out, just as this mother and father are doing for this client of mine. And then you'll be able to figure out what's going on. Now, unfortunately, sometimes this takes quite a while to do because you don't want to just go see somebody, a professional, and give it a day or two. You have to give it a good time period to see if there's any change, especially when you're dealing with, even like with medications, it takes a couple of months really to titrate up to the, shall we say, the dose that works. And then if you're not using medication, any other types of interventions, like if you're doing, shall we say, psychotherapy, it takes months, sometimes years, for people to feel better. So it all takes time, and if they shift the diet around, that takes time too, and it's just one thing after another. And by the time you're done, unfortunately, as is true for this particular teenager, she's been dealing with this stuff since she was like 6 years old, and she's now 15. Now, that might sound terrifically terrible, but I've had clients who had 60 years where they felt miserable. In one case, 70 years, because he's 80-something years old. I think he's 87 now. And he came to me just last year. So you can understand, sometimes people hold on to stuff for a really long time because they don't know where to get the help, or maybe they're scared to get the help, or they didn't fill any report with somebody, whatever. There's a lot of reasons why. But I do want you to take your child's complaints seriously, especially if they're starting to feel dizzy a lot or if they're fainting. You need to, and even headaches. Headaches can be brain tumors and a whole bunch of other stuff. So you need to make sure and rule out any of that stuff before you decide it's hypochondria, which is a not as nice name for, shall we say, somaticized pain. Somaticized meaning they feel the pain, but it's from an emotion. So in this case, this kid does not want to go to school. And there's a lot of different reasons, as I told you. And that seems to be a pretty reasonable way to understand this is emotional stuff that she's doing to herself, because her subconscious mind doesn't want her to get in a situation where she's bullied or harassed anymore. And because one of the meds that she's on gives her a really big appetite, thankfully her doctor told her that before she started taking them, she put on quite a bit of weight for her size, and that also is embarrassing for her to go to school looking like that. So you can see that these things can be kind of complicated, but in the end, it is our job as the adults in our kids' lives to support them, love them, figure out what's going on, hold them accountable when they're doing stupid things and when they're complaining about things that aren't true, and let them know, such as in this case, if this kid doesn't go back to school for this week, she's going to have to redo a half a semester of high school. Kind of ironic, huh? It's even more ironic is that she wants to be a medical researcher in cancer, which is a really great thing to want to do. But, if she's leaving the 11th grade, so she has one more year of high school, and then she has undergraduate school, and then she has a doctorate to do, and then she probably has a fellowship after that. You're adding on another 10 years of school, and she won't even go to high school right now. So you see, we have to get this figured out, and we will. But this is my guidance to help you understand whether or not your child has physical illness or physical cause for the problem or an emotional cause, and to be able to help them out. And sometimes it might be mixed, who's to say? People are complicated, and different things can cause different issues to arise. Anyway, I hope you found that case study fascinating, interesting, and something that you can use should you be in a similar situation with your lovely child. As always, I thank you for spending your time with me. Until next time. Bye-bye.